Hey guys, I'm making this as a kind of a quick follow-up. Probably not end up being so quick, but it's a follow-up to my last video about the wiper motor on the Oldsmobile. And I didn't originally plan on making a video on this, but it took me a really long time to figure this out, probably 2 or 3 hours at least. And there are no good YouTube videos out there on how this actually works. So I wanted to make a little video to explain to you, well, for starters, what I found with mine, and second of all, how they work in general. So what I've got going on here is I've got my window or wiper motor, and the actual motor itself is this. So if you want to if your motor itself is faulty and you wanted to rebuild it, there's two screws or two bolts. They're both I believe 1/4 sockets. You take those out and this whole bottom portion of this pops out and you can rebuild that motor. But if you got something in here, rebuilding it gets a little harder. So I'm going to explain to you what I got going on with it. So you got all these wires coming off of it, and the reason I got that is because this here is your control switch, I suppose you could call it. It's not really a switch because the switch is in the car, but this is like your thing, that your mode control. And what you have is you have constant 12 volt, which is going right to the positive side of this battery here. But when it's on the car, it's constant switch 12 volt. And then you have constant ground, which is grounded through these bushings here when you bolt it to the car. But since it's not on the car, we're using the constant ground here. So those are your two things that you need to have. Now, as far as everything else goes, you have ground here, and then this one down here is your ground for your pulse with modulation, or delay, as some people call it. Which, if you don't have a delay switch, this terminal won't exist. That's actually what this green box is. This is a delay motor inside here. It's just a coil, basically. If you pop this green cover off, it's just a little wire coil. I'm not sure how it works. I don't know how electricity works, so I'm not going to try and explain it. But that little, green box, this blue wire right here, comes off of that, and this tiny little clip hooks right into that thing right there. But we're not going to bother with that because we're not testing delay. We know all the modes work. What I'm trying to figure out is why the wipers don't shut off. So these two grounds, you have low speed and high speed is what those are. And you want to ground it with your low speed because when you turn your wipers on, it has to go to low first. That's how the switch works. So you have to put ground on low. And then when you take another jumper wire, which I've actually got hooked up over here right now, so I'm not going to do it, you ground out your high speed, and then high speed will start working. And then you take off the low speed terminal and it will go to low speed. And then in order to get it to turn off, you have to reconnect high speed and disconnect low speed, and it will shut off. That's how it works. This one was off the parts car, and this motor is complete junk. As you can see, I've bypassed all that bullshit and just hooked the positive up to the positive and the ground up to the ground on the motor itself. And this battery is hot, and it's not doing shit. This motor is complete junk. So I'm just using it as a kind of reference to figure out what I'm doing. So what should happen, that's not happening, is this worm gear will spin and cause this drive gear to spin. And this here mechanism is your parking cam, your park cam. And it'll rub up right here against the ridge of this, and gravity will, obviously I can't do it because this is not moving, but gravity will force this back, and this is normally happening over here, so I won't do it right now because it's hitting the wall here, but this would fold all the way over so that this hook right here is like over in this area, and this would just spin infinitely forever until you switch it off, and a little motor over here energizes and causes the parking boot thing right here to kick out. See that? So this one is completely destroyed as well. It's supposed to have a spring right there with that cotton in between, and it's complete junk. It was like that before I messed it up trying to take it off, but yeah, this motor is completely shot, so I'm not feeling too bad about it. But yeah, basically when this little coil here is energized, it pulls, it's got power hooked up to this little cotton spring thing, and they would pull this back so that it's in the operating position. And then when you turn it off, it would get rid of ground over here, and it would cause that to pop back out. So the next time this thing recirculated, this hook here would pop out, it would kick out down in the bottom, and it would catch that. See if I can get it to do this. It would catch it like that, and cause the motor to stop working and jam up, and then it would park itself. So that's how that mechanism works. So see, with mine, what I've got going on is that I supply power to this, and it doesn't do anything. The motor doesn't start, it just clicks. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you. Let me take my ground here. I'll show you what it does. See that? See, so what's happening, it took me a while to figure out what was going on here, and I couldn't find anything online, nothing in the books, because I don't have the right service manual, is that this mechanism here, this parking cam mechanism, is jammed up underneath here. And I've looked at it. I didn't take it off because you can't take them off without breaking it, evidently. But I looked underneath here with a flashlight, and everything looks like it's in good shape. The cotton spring down there is intact. Everything looks like it should, except when I try and energize this, instead of this thing right here pushing back, it's not. It tries and doesn't move. So something inside of here is jammed up, and I can try to lubricate it, but I don't think I'm gonna have much luck with it because something is very wrong here. With it. So basically what's happening when I do that, let me find my thing here, is watch that little clip with the spring when I energize this here. See that? It moves slightly. You can also see a thing down in there moving when I do this. See that? Down by that spring right there. And see, it momentarily sticks when I take power off of it or take ground off of it. It sticks. It shouldn't do that. And when you touch it, it goes back down. So my theory was part way right in that something with the park mechanism is sticking. However, I don't know what's causing it, and I don't know if I can fix it. But that is what my problem is. So basically what's happening is you're doing this, and it's trying to turn the motor on, but the motor... it's on a very weak, I suppose you could call it clutch, where the second that it starts slipping, it shuts off power to it, so it won't burn this motor out. So when it's parked like this, it just slips this clutch, and it tells the motor, turn off. It's in park, and it turns off. So that's why it's just clicking, because it's stuck in park basically here. So what I'm confused on now is how it got stuck in park when beforehand it was stuck in not park. It was stuck in low or high, which it also shouldn't be doing. So yeah, definitely something in here is screwed up, and I'm going to try to lubricate it, but I don't think I'm going to have much luck, because typically I think what people say is that if you got a problem with the motor, you can try to rebuild it, but if you got a problem with this, you got to get a new assembly. So I think that's probably what's going to end up happening, unfortunately. I'll keep you updated in the description, but yeah, that's how this park mechanism actually works. This is probably going to be the only video on YouTube that actually illustrates how this works, because I couldn't find anything. So with that being said, see you in the next one.